You're listening to Bigger Than Belief, real stories about real faith with real people whose belief is unbelievable. I'm your host, Adam Duxter. Thanks for joining us on Bigger Than Belief. Today is Thursday, March 19th, and today we've got something really cool because it's a guest that we've had on our radar for a while, really wanting to have him on. And today we've got him. And it couldn't come at a better time either, because today Muslims around the city, state, country, and world are celebrating the end of Ramadan. Weeks of daily fasting all coming to an end now with Eid. And today's guest falls into that category of someone who is celebrating, and that is Ryan Harris. He's a St. Paul native, former college and pro football player, and Super Bowl champion. He's also a best-selling author, award-winning broadcaster, and he is Muslim. And on this episode, he shares how he became the first person in his family to follow Islam and how he's approached his life as a mission for the people around him to understand his faith a little bit better. It is a fascinating conversation, and Ryan himself just has a cool life story in general. And if you stick to the end, you'll hear a message directly from him to you. So now, here is Ryan Harris. Well, we now welcome on a very special guest. He is a Super Bowl champion. He's a best-selling author. He is an award-winning broadcaster, and he is in the middle of Ramadan, so it is a busy time for him. Ryan Harris, thank you so much for joining us, Ryan. I do want to start with the fact it is Ramadan. You are a practicing Muslim. How are you feeling?
Man, I'm blessed, Adam, and great to be with you. Thanks for doing this show. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor. And I'm feeling good. You know, we're in right now as we record this, it's in the final week. But it's a true challenge. It's something that's prescribed, and it's something that you never know how long you're going to be able to do it too, whether it's old age or bad guts or whatever it is that may prevent you from having to fast in the future. And it's honestly something that I have grown to love so much and look forward to. And I always love those situations where you have to have so much discipline that it takes you beyond your comfort into your capabilities. And as a Super Bowl champion, as a broadcaster, as a law student now, it's like, man, I can really easily forget how many people fast in a day that choose not to. And for me, you come back to the teachings, to the books, so you read more, you listen more, and think about how is your forgiveness? How are you on forgiveness? How are you on gratitude? And what are you willing to do to show God you love God in the middle of your busy, hectic schedule that God has also given you? So it's a beautiful time, and I hope one day, Adam, you and I can have an iftar together, so you can eat and feel that joy of when you break the fast around people of faith.
Your faith story is so compelling to me as I research kind of who you are and learn more, because I'm always fascinated when someone has a faith story that breaks them away from their family lineage prior to that. Family believes this, and then you come in and you say, hey, I'm going to believe this. And that really is kind of your trajectory for people who don't know kind of your faith background and your faith journey. How did you find faith yourself?
Well, my family, was religious. I think I would say spiritual, not religious. We had the Lutherans and the Methodists. We're good old Minnesotans on one side. You know what I mean? And then we have, the other side of my family goes all the way Baptist and even some Lakota in it, right? So we have a great background. It's one of the things I love about us Minnesotans. It's a beautiful place to be from. And I had some Buddhist teachings in my youth, and then I actually came to Islam through the Unitarian Universalist Church right off of Summit Avenue there in St. Paul. And at 14, we had to make a faith statement. And I was like, man, I don't know what I believe. So I started learning about Christianity. I started learning about Judaism, Buddhism, things like that, Taoism. And really, though, when I read about Islam, it just felt like God had unzipped my heart, right? Like, you don't know if I pray 5 times a day or not. We believe in one God. We have reverence for Jesus and Moses, Abraham, Luke. That's one of my favorite chapters in the Quran, Luke Man, and may peace be on all the prophets. We have an entire chapter of the Quran dedicated to Mary, right? So, who, oh, by the way, we as Muslims believe was brought Jesus through the angel Gabriel and the Holy Spirit. So, man, we are so close as brothers and sisters in faith, and it's been challenging at times and fun at times for me to bring those bridges together, be like, hey man, like we're not that different, you and I, and hey, what is it that you're doing? And that's one of the things in my family growing up, it wasn't as much about what you called yourself. What are you doing? Right? Like you can call yourself a Christian, you can call yourself a Muslim. If you're treating people bad, it doesn't matter what you are, you're not doing it right. So that's something that has been great for me, and it's been a source of strength for me. And what's funny is it really guided me on a path to Notre Dame, because Notre Dame was the only school that brought me to a mosque on my my college visit as a football recruit. And in the NFL, all but 2 years of my 10-year NFL career, I had Muslim teammates, and I had Christian teammates who would come to me and say, "Hey, Ryan, don't eat that; it's got pork in it." So, the thing that Peyton Manning never asked me on third down is what I called God. And all of our books teach us to love other people, and that's the challenge we have as people of faith.
Taking a step back, I mean, when you tell your family as you're doing this declaration of faith as a 14-year-old, hey, I think it's Islam for me. What was the reaction?
My parents were just happy that I chose something myself. I think a lot of people realize that, or have experienced. Let me change that. A lot of people have experienced that you grow up a certain way and you may think that's the only way. And my parents wanted me to be able. They wanted me to practice in everything in my life, having an opinion, looking at the landscape, and making a decision. So they were happy about it. My grandfather, I had tremendous support, not only from my family, but from teachers, from the community in the Twin Cities. Right. I mean, the first mosques I went to were in the Twin Cities. The first time I had food with strangers, eating it with our hands, was in the Twin Cities. But I do remember my grandfather. He was like, "Hey, we got this delicious bacon. You sure you don't want some?" You know what I mean? So it was fun, and it was also supported, and it's something that I hope that everybody has support in their choices and how they choose to find God and choose to practice God, and that's something that I really benefited from.
How did you get into the spiritual disciplines as a 14-year-old? Because it really is an active faith. As you mentioned, you're praying multiple times a day. There's rules that you're following. And also there is, in some parts, I'm guessing, a language barrier. How did you overcome all that at such a young age?
Well, there's not really a language barrier. I'll start there, and that's because even if you do go to if you go to read the Quran, there's an English translation everywhere, and the parts of the sermons were they're part in Arabic, but then they say the same thing in English. So you start to figure out what's being talked about, right? And like, what kind of effort are you making? Again, what are you doing? Like, if you don't know Arabic and you're going to be hearing it, like, it's not just about that it's in Arabic. It's about that translating any language from its original language is going to have an effect, right? So let's recognize that. And I think for me, it's recognizing that you're not going to get everything at once. I had a great teacher who mentored me. He was like, "Look, the way you come into faith is the way you leave faith. And if you come in and try and do everything totally different, that's how quick you're going to get out of there." So it started with a lot of forgiveness. It started with a Teach Yourself Islam book that I got at the Barnes and Noble in Harmar Mall back in the day. And it was not complete by any means, but I kept going, And Adam, I even got one of those chains that said Allah on it from the Piercing Pagoda, right, at the Rosedale Mall. But that led to somebody being like, "Hey, you're Muslim. Do you know, like, where do you go to the mosque?" I'm like, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing. So can you help me?" And so I had great people of faith and great people of all faiths. I mean, I had my Jewish family members and friends helping me and guiding me. I'm like, "Hey, I know a Muslim. You should talk to this person." And I had Christians tell me, "Oh, there's a mosque over here. There's a really good restaurant over here. Shout out to Holy Land out there in the Twin Cities." You know what I mean? So it's like, man, I just had so much support. And that's what I have found consistently is when you are putting yourself in a place where you're trying to make yourself better, you know, people who believe in God, who understand that we're commanded to love others, we're commanded to learn from others, commanded to help others. It's something that's really powerful, and I learned tremendously at Cretin-Derham Hall, about the Gospels, which are included in the Quran, and I learned about this thing agape love, and I learned about washing feet, and I learned about service, and I don't see enough of that in the conversations that we're having. And each of us has an opportunity to increase that love, increase that respect, and celebrate together.
You mentioned Cretin-Derham Hall. You go as a young Muslim kid, you're still a kid at that point, to a Catholic high school, and then you follow that up by going to a Catholic university. For so many young people, you understand that there could be pressure to assimilate. You don't want to stick out. You don't want to be the one person who's different. How hard was it, or was it hard to be that one person who maybe was different than everyone else during that time?
It was fantastic. It was an incredible experience. I mean, I became a better Muslim at Notre Dame. If I would have gone to a public school, I remember one time in Ramadan, my dorm mates were like, "Hey Ryan, let's go to a movie." I'm like, "Hey man, I got prayer coming up. Could we go to a later one?" Now, two things happened. One, they were like, "Yeah, no problem," and then the other guy, a couple doors down, was like, "There's a 7:30. We don't have to go now." Right? So not only did God make the 7:30 movie time, but I have friends who recognize that faith, right? That faith and love of God is something that you just really can respect. And let's think about this. You're talking about Notre Dame, Latin for our mother. Adam, does our mother care what we call her? Does she care that we're at the dinner table when the food is set, right? And so this idea that this is our mother, right? Nobody has a claim to God, right? You can have your absolute beliefs, and if you're hating your brother or sister, or if you're saying bad things about your brother or sister, you are not being the person that you say you are. You're not being that person of faith. And so on Notre Dame, there's over 500 masses per week on campus. Like praying 5 times a day, you kind of feel like you're getting a discount. You know what I mean? So to be able to be around people that respected me, to have Coach Willingham at the time take me to a mosque on my visit and say, "Ryan, we want to bring you to a mosque so that you know that Notre Dame is a place for you too." And oh, by the way, Notre Dame has one of the oldest Muslim associations in America for its students. So there's just so much that we have in common, so much that we can celebrate, so much good food we can eat. And I became a better Muslim being around great Christians and being around great Jewish brothers and sisters who taught me what love and respect is. Because if I believe in God and you believe in God, we have to have at some level the knowledge of that commitment that we're making. And how could I ever disrespect that from you, Adam? How could I ever try and take you away from your belief? I'd rather invite you to dinner, learn about it, and say, how can I support you? How can I be a part of this beloved community together? And isn't that what Jesus did, right? Like, isn't that what we're taught in every book, no matter what you're learning or what you ascribe to? And so the real people of faith that have kept this world turning since the beginning of books, right? That's who has strengthened my faith in Islam. And many times that is not a Muslim. It is oftentimes people who are not Muslim.
Mm. You talk about things like discipline and structure and brotherhood. I'm guessing that you see that during your football career, but you also see that as you grow in your faith. I mean, how much of what you did in football can you relate to what you find in your faith when you talk about those core tenets of discipline, brotherhood, and community structure? Was it the same thing with both that kind of was appealing to you, if that makes sense?
I think that it's a natural outcome of loving others and giving your best effort, right? What's similar about faith and football is everybody's trying to give their best, and it may not be good enough, right? But I also realized something that I refuse to forget. We actually don't care what the other person's religion is. That we don't care enough to make it a difference. I've talked about before. Like Peyton never asked me what I call God on third down. Right? He wanted to know I knew who the Mike linebacker was. One of my favorite teammates of all time is Tim Tebow, and one of the most consistent Christians you have ever met. And I love that man, and he asked me questions about Islam, and I talked to him. Christian Ponder, former Minnesota Viking, came to the Broncos and was like, "Hey, can I just ask you some questions about Islam?" I'm like, "Yes, please do." And I'm like, I'd rather have this conversation between you and I than to have you learn about Islam from somebody who doesn't practice it, right? So, like, how crazy is that we often believe things about other religions from people who aren't even part of that religion? Like, that's so illogical. We can do better than that. So, I think that when you're on a great team and when you're put together with people and you can't afford to have an opinion about their religion, about the way they love somebody, about who they love, you find out how much we really do care about people and how much we accept about people and can celebrate about one another.
To that point, I think I saw the stat while I was doing some research for this conversation. Is it something like 65% of people, there are nearly 2 out of 3 people have never met someone who's Muslim or had, an in-person conversation? Because what you're describing is a lot of people who are naturally curious. Now that they know you, they want to ask you these questions. I mean, how true do you find that stat to be? And how does that change your approach when you're talking to people who have questions?
I think it's an underestimate in my experience, and what it does and what it should do for all of us, right? The greatest strength we have is to give an invitation. What it does to me is like when somebody says something, I'm like, oh, this is an invitation. Like, if you don't like a Muslim, like, great. Hey, you want to come over for dinner? We don't have to talk about religion at all, right? Just come over for dinner. We'll eat together. We'll hang out. I had one teammate ask me once. He said, "Ryan, well, what do Muslim people laugh at?" And I was like, "Did you see the new Kevin Hart movie?" I've had teammates ask, "Ryan, what do Muslims like to do?" I'm like, "Well, we like to go to the mall." So this idea that we're not living the same human experience is really easy to decouple when you actually have a conversation with somebody, right? And I think about it, Adam. What if 65% of people had never met a white man? What opinions would I have, right? Would they be correct? And should I learn that opinion from somebody who's not a white man? Like, that would be a really different, I mean, you're even shifting, right? You're getting uncomfortable. Like, I don't know. I don't know what people would say. So, like, you just have to give an invitation. And so how it changes my conversations and my invitations are, I'm gonna accept that I likely know more about Islam and what Muslims, how they live their everyday life than somebody who's not Muslim. And one of the ways that's grown in my life is I was a part of a Muslim, Christian, and Jewish interfaith dialogue, and it was fascinating. The misconceptions that we had of each other, and the ways that we would subtly just pick a side based on a bias that we didn't even realize. And so when you understand that people haven't had an experience, and that a lot of people who may be Muslim may not want to talk about it, now you understand why there's so much miscommunication and so much room for us to grow closer together.
How much of our issues today do you think are simply a lack of understanding or just not knowing the other person? Because you do see over the course of the last 25 years, you can trace it with almost a directly upward trajectory, a rise in Islamophobia, a rise in anti-Semitism, a rise in all sorts of faith-related issues where people have these violent actions, these clashes with people because of their faith. But how much of that do you think is the fact that we just don't know each other?
It's a lack of experience, not understanding. And I think, to your point, it's 100% the issue, right? Let's say another percent of it too is we're actually pushing people away from faith. If we're talking to others, like when you talk to other people about your faith, are you telling them what to do? Are you telling them what not to do? I mean, Adam, I don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or Hindu. The hardest part, oftentimes it's hardest to be your faith around people of faith. How is that possible? How far have we gotten from teachings that teach us to love, that teach us to go and be with the people who are different than us, who teach us about justice, about righteousness, right? Where in what book does it say, choose what justice is one day and then choose what justice is another day, right? Which book is that? So we don't have experience with each other. And this goes to any situation where we have a rupture. It goes down to our lack of experience. If you tell me that all Muslims are terrorists, if you tell me that Muslims want to implement Sharia law, which, oh, by the way, most Muslims in the world don't live under that, I know you have not had an experience with a Muslim. You're betraying your ignorance, right? I mean, what if I said that Christians want everybody to go to hell? And that they don't believe, and that they believe that black people are the son of Cain and damned. Do you know right now that I have zero experience with Christians? Do you feel compelled to give me an experience that's filled with love or filled with hate? So when we show hatred, we are showing our lack of experience, we're showing our ignorance, and it's something that pushes people away from faith. And we have to do much more loving of one another, much more learning about our capabilities to connect and understanding we don't care about our differences when it comes down to it. And if you have the time to care about your differences, you are too comfortable and you're not following the teachings that our God, who has put all of us on earth, has taught us.
I mean, you've described almost only positive experiences engaging with your Catholic or Christian or teammates, classmates, people of other faiths. But I mean, how often did you and do you get people coming after you because of what you believe?
Well, it's equal. It's equal. I had a high school coach tell me that they weren't going to let her play first base. I had high school teammates or college teammates who told me they wouldn't let their daughter marry a black man. Right? I mean, these are things that are unacceptable to then go into faith. And by the way, Adam, why are there white and black churches? How are there white and black churches? And
Mm,
please don't talk about music now.
mm,
Right? I get that people like different types of music, but Adam, come on, right? And how come it changes? How come violence changes? How come consistency changes? So I accept that you're going to get hatred and you're going to get ignorance, whether people are Christian or Jewish or Hindu. But let's be very clear. Those experiences are exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying we're pushing people away. And now, conversely, I had an amazing coach in Charlie Weiss, right? This tough and rough guy who came from the New England Patriots to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And after our first season together, I get a call. He's, Coach wants to see you. I'm like, oh man, what did I do wrong? And so he comes in there. This is again after Tyrone Willingham brought me to a mosque. Within the first year, Charlie Weiss calls me to his office in the offseason and says, Ryan, I don't know enough about the Islams and the Muslims. Teach
mm,
me. And we have a conversation for 45 minutes. He says, you know what? More people need to know about this. And so he called the Notre Dame magazine and they did an article on me. And oh, by the way, some of the most important people in that Notre Dame administration still fast a day or two with me during Ramadan. So let's be clear. Saying you're Christian doesn't mean you don't hate people. It just means that you have a belief in God. Now, how consistent are you with that? I've been able to see inconsistency since I was a young kid growing up in the Twin Cities. I'm white and black, right? I know that some people are going to call me black, and then in some places they're going to call me high yellow. I'm not going to allow the inconsistency to stop my love of you, God's creation. I'm not going to let that inconsistency stop me from giving an invitation. I mean, I listened to Dr. King. I listened to the Drum Major Instinct speech. I've read the books. I've been taught the gospel by Christians. Like, I will not let you reduce my faith in God because you haven't gotten to your potential yet.
mm.
And so these facts of life have happened to many people. And I love God so much that I'm going to love you through whatever you want to say to me. And that's how I was taught.
What does keep you coming back to your faith?
It's irresistible. It's irresistible to me. I think, I actually hear God and see God in all the teachings. Right at Notre Dame, I would go to mass with my teammates before games. At Cretin-Derham Hall, I went to mass with my classmates. I think for me, I find God everywhere. And I find that love that we have, whether it's a song or whether it's people coming together or trying new food. I think God's irresistible. I have yet to be shown a theory of how we are all here together, with the moon in its place, whether you're listening to the gospel or if you ever hear any of the English translation of the Quran, like how do you not feel something, right? That song, "Our God is an Awesome God." Tim Tebow used to sing that all the time. Hey, I feel that too, right? Why would I limit that? So one of my favorite names for God in Islam is the Irresistible, and I just feel like God's irresistible. That these moments, you and I, Adam, this is irresistible. Right? I'm so thankful that God has given each of us faith, wherever it may be, that we're here talking about this right now, and I hope that it continues to grow. And let's be clear, this is what is the only thing that has moved our world forward, coming together, not striking each other down. Adam, how crazy is it that Christians haven't killed all the Muslims yet in the history of the world? Haven't y'all had the time to do that? Right? I mean, like, since we're going to live here together, let's cut it out, right? Come over for dinner. Let's eat. Let's have some fun.
So to kind of circle back around then, for people who are watching the evening news or national news, and they are seeing conflict that is faith connected overseas, in the Middle East, here at home. We had a synagogue yesterday, as we're taping this on Friday, March 13th. We had a synagogue yesterday in Michigan where someone, drove in. It was an attack. We're watching faith-based, faith-driven attacks happen all over. People are trying to wrap their minds around it. They're trying to make sense of it. What do you want people to know?
That each of us are playing a role in this. Each of us bears responsibility. Each of us has clearly not given enough invitations to stop this madness. It's insane. And let me be clear. I live in Colorado. You know what? People think Minnesotans are very violent people. You guys are very violent, right? Oh, you had the George Floyd violence. You had the violence with the protesters and ICE. Ryan, why are Minnesotans so violent? Do you know a Minnesotan? Have you been to a lake? Have you had some walleye? Right? I mean, this is the same thing. So one of my favorite things that Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers said when I played for him was never minimize your role in a success or failure. Just because you see it on TV absolutely does not preclude you from playing a role in that. We have not given enough invitations. We have not given enough invitations. We have not put our feet somewhere enough to where we're uncomfortable. You cannot speak about your safety and not speak about somebody else's. So what do? Number one, listen so intently and so purposefully that you could react and give somebody their point of view right back to them. Number two, absolutely abandon any expectation of changing someone's mind. We don't need to. Adam, you don't need to change my mind about God. I don't need to change your mind about God. We can both be great dads together. We can both hope that the Twins win the World Series, right? And isn't that funny, Adam, that when we go to a baseball game, when you go to a Vikings game, when you go to the airport, you don't care what people's religion is around you. But when you get home, that's when you're comfortable. That's when you care. So we have not done enough, and it's on each of us to do more.
Is it as simple as getting connected with someone? I mean, for people who are watching and listening to this, maybe they don't have the opportunity to talk to you personally, but would you say, hey, go to a mosque, go find someone, or where should people start if they're like, yeah, I do have a desire to meet someone personally? Well, it's kind of an intimidating thing for some folks. So how should they get started?
Well, intimidation is a choice, right? It is scary. Invite yourself. Invite yourself. I mean, I remember one of my teammates in the NFL. I've been doing yoga forever. Started in St. Paul, Minnesota, down there off of Dale Avenue. And one of my teammates, I'd had success. He goes, "Hey, can I come to yoga with you?" And he didn't know what yoga was. He just was like, heard me talking about it. And now he's been doing yoga for 12 years, right? So, invite yourself, smile, and let me tell you something. If you invite when we recognize something that's important to someone else, does that person get upset with you? Hey, Adam, can I join you for an Easter celebration? Does that piss you off? I mean, you're smiling right now, right? So the intimidation, fear is a constant. You're going to have fear if you're going on the football field. You're going to have fear if you're asking for that new job. That's an excuse. You have to go through fear every day. You get on Highway 94, you might be afraid sometimes. That's a busy highway. Fear cannot stop. And you know what it does? Fear fuels the hatred we're seeing. So you can make a choice, invite yourself and overcome that fear, right? That people have been doing since we've been alive. Or you can let that fear fuel the next crime that we see against our own community and know that you're playing a role in that. That's what's happening. These are the choices we have. I'm going to invite myself. What are you doing for Easter, by the way, Adam? Come on, man. Send the flight over here. Pick me up.
Dude, yeah, come on over to my house. We'd be happy to have you. Last thing I want to ask you about, Ryan, when this airs, it'll be Thursday, March 19th. Eid is right here. What does that mean to you?
It means a return to the choices we can make, and it means to retain. I think for me, Eid is always about, it's easy to think, oh, I can pray at different times in the prayer times. I don't have to fast. Well, it's like, well, what did you learn from fasting? And me this year, Adam, I learned I've got a lot more gratitude I can give and that I can increase my forgiveness of others. I want to retain that. So Eid is about eating, absolutely. Taking naps, right? So if you get the chance, make sure to eat with some other Muslims at this time. But it's also about retention. And I believe, as we're talking about Easter, I believe that's what Easter is about, right? A rebirth. Is that correct? Is it about going to church on Sunday and leaving it, or is it about that recommitment? Wow. So you're telling me you have a recommitment event in your faith, and I do too? Could we talk about that sometime, Adam? Can we connect on that? Like, come on, man.
Yeah, even seeing Ramadan, the start of Ramadan, and Ash Wednesday fall on the same day today. The parallels are there for those conversations to be happen. Ryan, I know you got to bounce here, but I do want to ask, how can people find you? How can they stay connected with you or see what you're up to?
Well, if you're in Minnesota, you know we live by the 3 degrees of separation, so ask somebody. And you probably know one of my cousins or one of my former classmates. But follow me on at Ryan Harris _68. I'm on LinkedIn. And I just want to tell you, Minnesota, thank you. I love you. And to anybody watching beyond Minnesota, thank you. I love you. And we have got so many invitations to give, and we have a role to play in bringing this world together.
Ryan, I appreciate you greatly. Ryan Harris, thank you for joining the podcast.
Adam, thank you. Peace.
Folks, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to listen to this episode of Bigger Than Belief. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment, if you can, to rate us 5 stars or leave us a review in the app where you're listening. That helps us play to the algorithms and get seen by even more and more people. And hey, speaking of algorithms, if you like this type of content, we've got clips all the time from all of these episodes, including this one, up on our social media channels. Again, even just a like or share from you and that platform goes a long way. If this is your first time listening, welcome. We do this every single week. Real stories about real people and belief that is almost unbelievable. And we'll see you again next Thursday with another awesome story. Coming up, we'll see you then.
I'm Maria Lizignoli, and this podcast comes to you from the WCCO Podcast Studio.
I'm Johnny Connor, and this is where you'll find the latest news of the day with us on 4 Things to Know.
I'm Mariel Mose, and I bring you the stories behind the female athletes redefining the game on women in sports.
I'm Adam Duxter. Join me for a deep dive into faith and what it means to Minnesotans around the state on Bigger Than Belief.
Stay in the know on the go with the WCCO Podcast Studio. Go to WCCO.com/podcasts.